Give people a couple more minutes to get on. Really?
Okay.
Hey, just giving people another couple minutes or so to get on, and then I'll do
Okay.
accountability.
All right. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. You need to update your bio, I think.
Probably. Uh, My newest thing is that I am a grandpa.
Yay!
Yeah,
First of many, I'm sure.
probably. Got a second one coming in December.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both of them are going to be long distance. One's in Alabama and one's in Arkansas.
Oh no, we're gonna have to buy you Airbnbs or something in those areas
Right.
so
Yeah.
you can justify going more frequently.
Yeah.
You probably get real estate for less expensive there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm like, I look into some investing
Yeah,
opportunities.
absolutely. The good write-off.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with our accountability. I'm sure a couple more people will hop on, but Brianne, you want to update us on how your business is going this past weekend and today?
Yeah, I did an open house on the weekend. It was a little slow, but it was good. Had a couple good solid leads that I followed up with this morning, left messages for. So
Awesome.
hopefully, we'll be hearing back.
Good job. Allie, how about you?
I did a fun thing on Saturday for it's more social focused. That it's a video that I filmed with another agent. So looking forward to rolling that out and hopefully making that a series. And that's all I'm going to say for now until it comes out. I'm excited about it. And then yesterday I did a first time homebuyers class. And we had 6 people and it was great.
Um,
And people were
Wow.
like really engaged. Two found us online because we were advertising online, and one was from a couple that I met at an open house. So that's cool. And so I'm going to follow up with all those folks today.
Yay, awesome. Yeah, definitely have a solid follow-up plan for that. The um conversion rate of someone that like comes to a live buyer seminar to purchase within the next year is really high. So that's
Yeah.
really awesome. Sung Choi, how's everything with you?
Hi, uh, so far so good. I just really try to meet all people I know every other day, and I really try to have a meeting during at least a day during weekend. Yeah, I'm just let keep other people know that I'm in this field and I'm starting this job. Yeah.
Good, awesome. Good job. Perfect. Well, I turned on the little doorbell sound because I'm sure I'd be surprised if we didn't get a couple more people that logged on, maybe a few minutes late. Maybe they don't want to be accountable today and they're trying to avoid me. Uh, but today you guys have Tim English. He was our number one buyer's agent. Oh, there's one. In Capital City in 2020. and use that to momentum to launch his own mega agent office. And he now runs his own team and is exceptional. He's always engaged in training and leadership, and we are super lucky to have him. So definitely engage, ask a lot of questions, and soak up this time today.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mara.
You're welcome.
So right, if I hit the reclaim the host button so that
When I leave, it'll just go to you, but yeah, we're co-hosts for now, so you can go and do
okay.
whatever you need.
Okay, cool. We'll just do that. All right, awesome. Very good. Okay, well, we are gonna jump right in and I'm gonna share my screen with you and bring up the PowerPoint. Okay, everybody see that all right? Awesome. And I'm gonna bring up my notes and then I'll be ready. Let's see, that was actually in downloads. That's it right there. Okay, where are you? Oh, just a second here. There we go. Put that over here on my other screen where I can see what I'm doing. And okay, I think we're ready to get started. So as Mara said, my name's Tim and I've been doing real estate just over 7 years. And I did not come from a sales background, did not even come from a business background. Um, and I won't spend a bunch of time telling my story, but I just say it to encourage you that no matter what background you've come from, whether you have a bunch of sales experience or you don't, real estate is a great equalizer. And if you'll put in the work and learn the best practices and have a plan and be consistent, you can have whatever size of business that you want to have and whatever success looks like for you and whatever financial goals you have and want to achieve, it can definitely be done in real estate. So um, I moved back to the area 7 years ago after having been gone from Oregon for over 20 years and just reconnected with people. Um, basically the name of the game is how fast can you make friends and add them to your database, right? So getting to know as many people as possible, making those contacts every day, making sure you get their contact information so you can follow up with them. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be about real estate, right? Sometimes we get stuck in thinking about um, buyers right now or even in the near future, but you know, they basically say anybody and everybody that you run into is one of four categories. They're either a right now buyer or a not now buyer. They're either a right now seller or a not right now seller. So even if somebody's a not right now buyer or seller, it's still worth your time to add them to your database and to just care about them as people and build a relationship with them so that when they are ready to do real estate, you're the person that comes to mind. So that's pretty much how I've approached my business. And, just like we say in KW, to come from value, right? Not as takers, but as givers. And so if you'll come and be genuine and care about people and see how you can help them on their journey, the rewards will come back to you. So that's what I just kind of say up front as a philosophy of how to approach your business. I, started as a buyer's agent on a team with about 170 contacts in my database. And now here, 7 years later, I have about 1,000 people in my database. And, a lot of it, most of it was just meeting people, networking, getting out and doing open houses and being a part of community organizations and Chamber of Commerce and, your local church and Rotary Club and whatever you can be involved in where you can meet people and build relationships with people. So we start today and we're getting into the transaction. So you've been through lead generation and lead follow-up, and now we're getting ready to actually meet with a buyer. And how do you handle that? How do you prepare for that? And walking through that, walking through the buyer consultation. So we'll deal with that. We'll deal with like some of the new changes that came to the industry that I'm sure that you've been hearing about and what that looks like for your buyer consultation and how to handle buyers and go through all of that. So yeah, so we're at the transaction part. So today we're going to be looking at how do we identify A buyers, how do we secure the appointment, prepare for the appointment, conduct the appointment, get the signed buyer agreement, and be able to move on and then help those folks find a house. Okay. Gary Keller says the right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. So when we're new, a lot of times it can feel scary asking for the appointment. Don't overthink it. When we get to it, I'm going to give you a great closing statement that I've used to help get appointments. And it works really, really great. So anyway, we'll get there. Okay, starting with A buyers. What is an A buyer? And why did my screen do that? Let's get to where we're supposed to be here. Okay, A buyers. What is an A buyer? Okay, so essentially, think of your business as a funnel, and you're going to capture leads in the top of the funnel. They're going to go into your database. So through prospecting and marketing, these leads come in. And as you get to know these people and you're asking them questions, you're identifying whether or not they're ready to buy or sell now versus in the future. So we'd kind of say, I would say that there's basically three types of buyers, which we would just label A, B, and C. Okay, so your A buyer is a buyer that meets three qualifications: ready, able, and willing. Okay, ready, able, and willing. Now, what you want to watch out for is that sometimes newer agents will end up chasing B and C buyers who are either not going to buy right now or who may never buy and end up wasting a lot of time and energy on people that don't end up transacting. And that can be frustrating, and you end up kind of creating some negative um, momentum. So don't don't hang on to people. Don't latch onto somebody just because they're a buyer and go, I've got to try and make this work and help these people buy a house if they're not showing signs of being ready, able, and willing. So we got to be able to qualify people, and to do that, we've got to ask good questions. All right. So what are some questions that you might ask to be able to qualify a buyer and find out if they're ready, able, and willing?
Are they pre-qualified?
Very good.
Emotional?
That's one of the first things, right? Are you have you talked to a lender? Are you pre-approved? Right? Definitely. So that'll tell you a lot right there. What else?
Do they plan on moving? Like, do they put like what are their professional and personal goals and like the
And
next 5 years? And will that potentially take them away from the area in that time?
yeah, so finding out where somebody works, um, and what their motivation is for moving. So, a person who is moving because of a job change is vastly different from someone who tells you, if the right house pops up, I'll consider it, right? So that's a person who's not super motivated. They're comfortable where they're at, and they're basically telling you, I really don't want to buy unless it's absolutely the right thing. So they're not super motivated. So in other words, you want to ask questions that get to their motivation. And right up front, I'll just give you this tidbit. Don't ask why questions, right? Why are you moving? Um, Anytime you ask a why question, it puts a person on the defensive, and they're either gonna shut down or they're gonna possibly get a little bit argumentative with you. So don't ask why questions. You can ask the same question like, why are you moving? Uh, with either, what you want to do is you either want to use what or how. Those questions are neutral questions and will get you the information that you need without putting the person on the defensive. So I could simply ask uh, this prospective buyer and say, what has got you thinking about moving? Now I just appear curious, and it'll get the person to open up more. So anyway, whatever you're trying to ask, just make sure you're forming it in with a what or a how in front of it when you're asking questions about your buyer. So let's just say you met them at an open house, or you have somebody on the phone. I mean, you're having that first basic conversation with them, getting to know a little bit about them, and finding out what they're thinking about in terms of buying. And so pretty much as quick as you can, ask some surface questions and kind of get, don't just all of a sudden jump to this question, but as quick as you can, you want to get to the motivation question, which what the way you get to that is asking their timeline, right? The when question. When are you thinking about moving? So they're either going to have a definite, right? They're going to say, oh, this summer after the kids are out of school, or by this by next April when I retire, they're either going to have a definite time frame of when they're moving, or if it's somewhat more nebulous, like they're waiting for they're waiting for interest rates to come down, or they're waiting for this or for that. Now they're not super motivated, and you're going to have to dig a little deeper to find out what's got them thinking about changing residences, right? So one of the great questions you can ask is just then create an imaginary scale. Just say, okay, so Mr. Buyer, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you need to move this month, you need to find a house this month, where would you be on that scale? Right? So they'll put themselves on the scale, and that's going to tell you a lot about where their motivation is at. Okay. And then from there, the follow-up question is, what would it take for you to be a 10? Right? So now you got them, you're going to find out what's the thing that's holding them back. And then you're going to be able to, then you want to move to be able to address that and see if you can get them to get off the fence. Any questions about that? Okay.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
When you bring that question bring question on a scale base, what if a person pick his answer from in between 5 to 6? Then then the person is what kind of potential client to you if a person pick 5 or 6 from the scale?
Right. So that just tells me, okay, if they've identified them as a 5 or a 6, they kind of want to be non-committal, right? So they're either purposely don't really want to open up and reveal where they're at, personally in their process, or they're entertaining the idea of moving, but it's an idea, it's not an actual goal. You see what I'm saying? Like if somebody puts themselves in the middle like that, that's the squishy middle. So they've kind of got this idea that it would be nice to, but either they haven't thought it all the way through, or they're just afraid of you, quote, being a pushy salesman, right? So what you want to do is try and make them feel safe in opening up and giving you more information. So, again, I would just follow up and say, okay, what would it take for you to be a 10? And that's going to be really revealing in them answering that question, you know. Um, and then whatever they say, then I'm going to move to say, well, let me help you answer that question, right? Let me help you deal with that obstacle, right? And so then I might even move to say, hey, just want to let you know, then you could do, and we're going to do these approaches later. Then I might move to what would be the trial close, which is an approach to getting an appointment. I could put it in hypothetical and say, all right, Sung, uh, what if what if we got together and talked about this? No pressure, don't have to sign anything. I just want to be a sounding board. Sounds like it would be beneficial uh, for us to get together and go over the home buying process. And I could share with you the most up-to-date market data of what's going on in the market. And then you could make the most informed decision for you and your family. How does that sound? right? So even if, right? So then if I've got this person and, they're not pre-approved, they're definitely not an A buyer, but I could still meet with them and establish rapport and hopefully help them think through their goals and what it is that they're trying to achieve and come across as the trusted market professional, right? Um, and then now I have them in my system. If they've said yes to the appointment, even if they're not a buyer right now, they're going to be a buyer at some point in the future. And now I can just follow up with them quarterly, just like I would anybody else in my database, and stay in touch with them until they're ready. So it's, you're just trying to meet people where they're at. You're trying to identify where they're at, answer their questions, deal with their objections, and say, okay, just be okay if they're not ready. Um, there's still somebody to add to your database. So they go into your database, and then you got to, determine based on their answer as to, how soon they're buying, how you're going to follow up with them. So let's just say, it was they were a hot lead. It really sounds like they're going to buy something in the next 1 to 3 months. Then, one, I'm going to ask for the appointment. And then two, if they say no, or not yet, or they're not ready, or they need to talk to somebody, or whatever it is, then I'm going to be following up with them like at least weekly, if not twice a week, to just to say, hey, are you ready to meet? Or show that you're already working for them. Like, hey, I found this house that sounds like it might fit what you guys are looking for. Or, hey, here's what's going on in the market right now. I just want to make sure that you knew that looks like interest rates are, going up or going down, or whatever it is that you can use to show that you're thinking about them, you're working for them, you're the trusted professional, you're there and ready when they are, and you continue to nicely bother them until they say yes to having an appointment with you. So I'll just tell you now, the biggest thing that I find in agents who don't end up being successful is they overthink. They go, oh no, I'm going to be bothering that person by calling them. Um, you have to get past that. Uh, you have to come from a mindset of that you are the trusted market professional, and that you're there to help them and save them from bad realtors or other people that might give them wrong information. Um, so don't feel like you're bothering people. It will keep you, if you keep that mindset, it will keep you from following up, and then you will miss deals. So, um, as we say in Keller Williams, another great phrase that you'll want to take away: get out of judgment and into curiosity. So what we mean by judgment just is simply you making decisions for the other person in your head without even talking to them. How do you know that you're going to be bothering them? That's a judgment that you've made in your own mind. So we have to be really careful what story we're telling ourselves. And if I'll get out of judgment and into curiosity, it helps keep me neutral in my emotions, um, so that then when I go to follow up, I don't have any negative emotions around that. I'm not trying to overcome a fear or some negative feeling of being anxious or whatever when I'm following up someone, because I just know, hey, I'm here to help. I'm just curious. I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you're not ready, that's totally okay. So it's not, I don't have to view it as like, oh no, they said no. It's a personal rejection, right? They're not rejecting me. They're just not ready to buy right now. I don't have to take it personally. So just make sure you don't get all caught up in that mentality. Okay. All right. So we get them in our database. We're figuring out how to follow up with them. All right. So here's kind of a general rule of thumb. When you're following up with leads or following up with potential buyers, um, figure out their timeline, right? You're figuring out their motivation, and you're going to put them in a few different categories. I have my 0 to 3 month hot lead buyers. Okay, my hot buyers. Okay, I'm going to be following up with them like weekly at least. Then you've got your folks that are probably like 3 to 6 months out, and you want to be in touch with them. You probably need to be in touch with them probably like twice a month, but you kind of need to watch them closely. You need to be able to determine, because a lot of times those people they'll start looking for a house, and all of a sudden their timeline will compress. And if you're not careful, they'll end up buying with somebody else. So really watch the 3 to 6 month people. They'll kind of push you off like, hey, I'm not really ready right now. And if you accept that as truth, you'll find that um, you'll miss some of them because they'll compress their timeline and jump and get anxious and excited about buying a house faster than what they've told you. And then you'll miss out. So make sure you're following up with those people probably twice a month and then helping them see, hey, you're right on time. This is what I've experienced with other people in your situation. They're usually thinking about buying 3 to 6 months out. So you're not early, you're right on time. So let's go ahead and meet today, right? So let's go ahead and meet so that you can have all the information you need so that you can make the best decision for your family. So do you see how I'm helping them adjust their mentality of, oh, wait, I'm early, I'm not quite ready, to, oh, that's okay, let me give you permission here. I'm the expert. Here's what I see. Everybody does that. So again, I've just taken away their excuse for not meeting by letting them know that they're right on time. And then here's the benefits why they should go ahead and meet with me. Because everybody, you're going to want to write this down too. Everybody wants to look good and be right, right? Nobody wants to be stupid and look bad. So what you want to do is set up a scenario where they can look good and be right. So you do that by saying, hey, I'm just here to convey all this information to you so that you can make the best informed decision for your family, right? Because you wouldn't want to make a mistake, right? They don't want to make a bad decision, right? So you're here to show them how you're going to help them be able to make the best decision by getting them all the information that they need. They'll be more likely to say yes to meeting with you. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Go from that to All right, so we're going to be moving through the 7-step buyer service cycle. So looking at we kind of talked about leads to appointments. And then as we move through today, we're going to be talking about preparing for the buyer consult, the actual buyer consult, and the other things that you do throughout the cycle of serving this client. So even once you find them a home and you negotiate the contract, then you're under contract and you're moving them through all the parts of the transaction to finally giving them the keys. And even after giving them the keys, you're not done. You're still going to follow up with them afterwards and check in with them and see how they're doing, and make sure and get a review from them. And you'd be surprised, even after you get them the keys, you still get a phone call of, oh, where's the mail key? I didn't get the mail key. Or, oh, I got this mail that's supposed to go to these other people. And there's usually follow-up things to do after the transaction is even closed. Okay, I guess just thoughts or takeaways at this point. Oh, I can't hear you, VJ.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You explained about the A buyer, one who's willing, ready, and for a buyer.
Yeah.
So very sure of like estimating the buyer who's a buyer, and you reaching out to him for an appointment. If he turns down the appointment, what are the next course of action?
Okay. So if make sure I heard you correctly. So that A buyer that's ready, able, and willing, if they said no to your
Appointment.
or appointment, asking for appointment, what do you do then?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, one, I would just try to figure out what their objection is. So, again, I would say kind of a neutral way. So it's got you thinking, you thinking that, or, depend on what kind of no answer it was. Was it like a real fast no, like just no, or like, no, I'm too busy, or no, I've got some other excuse. So you have to kind of be able to discern what kind of no they're giving you, right? So unless somebody's just been an absolute jerk, giving you a really hard and fast no, and you go, okay, yeah, I am not following up with that person. 99% of the time, you're just gonna follow up with them. So depending on, again, their information that they've given you, if they said no, I'm not ready to meet yet, or find out what the reason is for their no, basically, and then I'm going to follow up according to that. So, like, if they say no, I don't want to meet because I'm really not ready to get into this. I think I'll be ready by January. Then I'm not going to wait until January. I'll probably call them in December and for just a personal call and say, hey, this is Tim from Keller Williams. Just wanted to wish you a happy holiday season with your, family and friends. Basically, you guys familiar with Ford, the Ford conversations, FORD. Everybody wants to talk about these four things: So if you want to write down the acronym FORD, F is friends and family, O is for occupation, R is for recreation, and D is for dreams. So if I was talking to BJ and you were that potential buyer that was thinking about, hey, I might be ready in January, but right now I'm a no, then yeah, I would just follow up with you in December and say, hey, what are you doing for the holidays? How are things going? What are you looking forward to? How are your kids? I'm just getting to know you and like actually show that I care and be curious about your life a little bit. And then, obviously I called and you're going to say, yeah, we're still thinking about moving forward with buying a new home in the new year. Okay, great. Hope you have a great holiday season and I'll talk to you in January. So then I put it in command. I create a task. I'm going to call them in January in that first week. So, hey, how did the holidays go? What did your family do? Do you have a good time? All that stuff. And how can I help you in this new year with this goal that you said about buying a home? Oh, here's a lender partner I have that let me get you connected to them and they can get you pre-approved. And then you can at least know your numbers and find out what you can afford. How does that sound? I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I've got somebody that's probably got a leaf blower or something outside my office. It's making a whole bunch of noise.
Uh, it's fine over here. We're not hearing it. I'm not hearing it.
Okay. Yeah, so you kind of see how you follow up with people. You have to ask them enough questions to find out what their situation is, and then don't be afraid of following up with them. The money's in the follow up. I don't remember all the stats, but realtors are really bad. Like most realtors won't like I don't know. There's a huge percentage, way more than 50%, that won't even do the second follow up call. Like they'll do one follow up call and that's it, and then they just leave that person's left high and dry, and they're gonna find somebody to buy a house with. All you got to do is keep making follow up calls. It's not that hard. You just have to have a plan. So just because somebody doesn't say yes on your first ask doesn't mean that they're all done. So again, that was one of the things that I learned early on in sales is one, don't accept people's answers at face value. So like their no most of the time is not really a no. It's only a no with their current information, meaning they've got some issue or obstacle that they need help overcoming in order to turn them into a yes. So it just means within their reality of the information that they have at this moment, they're a no. So your mind needs to go working on what makes them a no. What's their objection? What's the information that they're missing? What is it that they don't know that they need to know that information that I could provide them about today's real estate market um, that could potentially turn them into a yes? Because it could just be like genuine concern. I could come to them and say, I hear you, and here's what really concerns me about you waiting. And then just you got to be prepared with your market data, be able to answer that objection and say, people that wait right now homes are appreciating at X percentage rate per month. You know, because you still got people out there that are waiting. They're waiting for interest rates to come down. They're, you know, you still got people out there that are waiting for some sort of real estate crash where they think, you know, that somehow prices are going to massively come down. And you need to be able to be prepared and be the market expert and help them see why that's not the case. But you can't do it from a, you know, an argumentative standpoint either. You're not there to debate them about the facts. You'll have some people that just, you know, won't be reasonable. So that's where you want to come from. Either want to come from value, or come from care and concern. So you just be able to say, hey, what you can obviously, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you can do whatever you want. And here's what concerns me about that choice that you're making. Here's what it could or quite probably will cost you by waiting, you know, and be able to back those numbers up, right? But yeah, you just keep following up with them. So if somebody tells me they want to, that, you know, they're going to buy in 6 months, I'm going to follow up with them in 3 months. If there's somebody that's going to buy in a year, I'm going to follow up with them in 6 months. So pretty much whenever you think that they're going to buy, cut it in half and follow up with them then, because you don't know if their circumstances will have changed. There could have been something that happens that speeds up their timeline or delays their timeline or whatever. So you go ahead and follow up with them. Again, have some market information, come from care and concern, just as a human being, ask them questions about their life, how things are going. Real estate's going to come up. Then you could talk intelligently about the market and about their goals and find out if it's really the right time for them to consider buying. And then again, really, no matter what they say, I'm going to give you this closing statement to set the appointment. So it goes like this. Let's see if I can remember it here. So basically, you know, you've had this conversation and now you're going to say something like, so here's what I recommend we do. So in that statement, you're sounding like the professional, like you've diagnosed the situation and you're recommending the best course of action based on their information, right? So, I mean, they could have just told you to go fly a kite. It really doesn't matter what they say, whether it's positive or negative. You just come back and say, so here's what I recommend we do. Why don't we find a time to get together? So here's what I recommend we do. Why don't we find a time to get together and I can go over the home buying process, the most recent market data for the cities or neighborhoods where you're thinking about buying. And then we can look at some homes. We can do a property search and look at some homes and see what's available in your price range. How does that sound? So you've come across as the expert. You've said, this is what I recommend we do. You've kind of shown them why. You've given them 3 reasons why it would be good for them to meet with you. You're going to go over the home buying process. You're going to share with them the most up-to-date market information so they can make the best decision for their family. And three, you're going to do the fun part, which is what they really want in the first place, is to look at homes, right, on a big screen and see what's available. Now, the last thing you do is you give them two choices. All right. You don't say, oh yeah, my calendar's wide open. Right? No, you give them two choices. You say, um, so I've got time at 4 o'clock on Wednesday and 5 o'clock on Thursday. Which one would work for you? Most of the time, they're just going to pick one or the other. If neither of those times work, then go back and pick one or two more times and keep doing that till you find a time that works. But by doing that, um, one, you're staying in control of your calendar, and two, you're not you just don't want to give away your position that as a younger, inexperienced agent, you have all the time in the world. Okay, because that can look like, oh, this person doesn't have any clients. Why would I want to work with them? So don't give away your position. Stay in control of your calendar and just give them a couple of options that work for you and let them choose. And they don't need to know what else is on your calendar. Does that make sense? And so I literally, go ahead.
I just said yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody's speaker is up and is echoing back through. So if whoever that is can turn down would be great. Okay. All right. So, you're asking questions. You're trying to determine, are these people A buyers or B buyers or C buyers? B buyers would just be they're legit buyers. They're just not right now. Now be careful, because there's a lot of people who will say they're not right now, but they don't have a real good reason for not being right now. They're just trying to put off making hard decisions, and they don't want to be pushed or rushed or hurried. So you have to kind of get through people's defenses and ask good questions. But there will be some people who will legitimately be buyers. They're just not right now buyers. So those are your B buyers. Your C buyers are really the people that you kind of want to avoid. They're not real buyers. They're the ones who will use your time and want to go look at properties or string you along, and maybe they don't communicate real well with you. They ghost you for long periods of time. And so these are the people that you just don't want to spend a whole lot of time and effort on, because you want to pay attention to how people show up in your world. And when they show up like that, do you really, they're flaky, right? So if they show up like that, then why would you give them a whole bunch of your time? They haven't shown that they're serious. So until they, kind of rise to that level, I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on them. I'm gonna go after more A buyers, right? And just do more. I'd rather do more prospecting and lead generating and find more A buyers than chase C buyers around. Because they're missing, the B buyers might not be ready, but they're able and willing. Okay. The C buyers, there's something else going on, right? They're either they want to buy, but they're not able, or for some reason they're not willing, but they're trying to act like they are. And So you either got to know your psychology and know how to get them to make a decision and get out of the C category. Otherwise, you just need to leave them alone, because they'll waste your time. So you want to stick with the A and B buyers, and primarily the A buyers. And so getting the appointment, we kind of talked about that. Keys to converting your A buyers. Obviously, we're going to respond to lead inquiries right away. So I don't know what lead generation methods you guys are using, but I would tell you at the very beginning of your game, don't buy internet leads. They're by and large a waste of money. They're very low quality leads, and yeah, you don't have any relationship with those people. So you're much better off prospecting more organically and finding ways to meet with people. So whether that's open houses, like I said before, belonging to different organizations where you're actually going to rub shoulders with people on a at least monthly basis. Um, and just other, or business to business, like you're meeting other business owners and establishing relationships with them, meeting other contractors, people that you might use as vendors, and then, you know, establishing a relationship with them where you're saying, hey, I'll recommend you if you recommend me, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of different ways to get out there and meet people and add them to your database and follow up with them. And those are going to be way more powerful and effective in the long run than internet leads. But whatever leads come in, somebody texts you, emails you, calls you, however you're getting your leads, obviously make sure you're responding to leads right away. And then when you do, make sure you're getting complete contact information so you can follow up with people. And then you're obviously adding them to command and creating an opportunity. So have you guys been using command? Do you have any questions about creating opportunities? You guys know how to do that? Okay, I see heads shaking yes. Good. Okay, determine their motivation to buy. We already talked about that. And then set an appointment. Okay, for as soon as possible. That's key as well. Usually when I'm setting an appointment, it's not more than, a week into the future. If you book an appointment any farther than that into the future, it's almost like you're going to need to follow up. And at some point between when you booked it and when it's going to happen, follow up midway and make sure that they're still on for the appointment, right? There's just too many things that can happen in 2 weeks worth of time that could cause them to have a change of schedule. So try to get it for as soon as possible. Usually the same week. If not, the beginning of the next week, that kind of a thing. So make sure you're setting that. And then when you set it, what I'm doing is I will check in with them either the day before or the day of. I'll send them a text letting them know that I'm looking forward to meeting with them and just confirming that we're still on for our appointment at such and such a time. So it's a nice, you're probably seeing that from your doctor or dentist or chiropractor or whoever. A lot of times there'll be automated reminders that go out to remind people about appointments. So don't think that that's weird or or pushy or anything. People need reminders in today's their busy lives, and you'll up your appointment rate of kept appointments if you'll just send them a reminder within 24 hours of your meeting. It'll remind them that, that they are meeting with you. And that way you didn't waste your time sitting around waiting for them in a conference room. If they need to reschedule, then they're going to text back and say, "Oh, we had this come up, or can we reschedule for a different time?" And then you just reschedule. Okay, so 7 different tactics to close for appointments. I'm not gonna go over all of these, but number 1, I kind of showed that by my closing statement of listing off 3 reasons why they would want to meet with me. I'm going to go over the home buying process, the market data, and we're going to look at homes. So, give them some reasons. That's one way to do it. We went over the trial close, where you're trying to make it more kind of hypothetical. So what if we did get together? Would you be okay with that? The one that I use the most is the assumptive close. So I'm gonna ask you questions and get to know you and become your friend and your real estate advisor. And I'm just gonna assume that you're gonna want to do business with me, because why wouldn't you want to do business with me? Right? So I'm just gonna keep moving forward, not in a pushy way, but just in a legitimate way. I'm just gonna move forward. And then if somebody says, oh, no, or not quite yet, then then I'll ask a question and find out what the objection is and answer it and see if we can still move forward. If not, then I'm going to say, okay, no problem. I'll follow up with you next week. But you see, I'm setting the agenda. I'm not waiting on them. I'm letting them know the timeline. I will follow up with you next week. And then when I follow up next week, then they're like, oh, wow, this guy actually really follows through. He actually did what he said he was going to do. Right? So again, just in those subtle ways, you're establishing credibility and the kind of person that they would want to work with because you follow through. So I just use the assumptive close, which just means it's like I said, I use that closing statement a lot of the time, or some form of it. But I'm showing them that I'm listening to them. I'm valuing what they value. I'm asking them, I'm coming from curiosity and asking them, you know, personal stuff, and then, you know, uh, like affirming that, going, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's a great goal. Or here's how I can help you meet that goal. Or, I'm just showing that, hey, I'm coming alongside you, and here's how I can help you. And we should get together. So then they just say yes. It's amazing. Uh, Tie downs are, I don't know if you've heard of those yet, but tie downs are questions that you add at the end of a statement to get a yes or no answer. So, so Allie, we should get together next week, shouldn't we?
Yes.
That's right. They're going to say yes. So tie downs can be really effective ways to get the other person to participate in the conversation and get them to commit to a yes or no, whatever answer that you're looking for. Okay, let's see here. Let's get back to. All right, here we are. Buyer objections to the appointment. All right, so we talked about asking questions. So then they give you an objection. So you want to empathize. The great way to empathize is just this really simple statement. I hear you. Okay. Don't say I understand, because you might not, right? Sometimes we can try to say I understand someone's situation when what we're really trying to say is that we care. If it's a difficult situation that we haven't actually been through before, we can't really say we understand, right? There's a better way to say that, because you could get somebody pushing back and say, no, you don't understand. So don't say I understand, just say I hear you. And that is a very deep human need for people to be heard. So just by saying that simple statement, their defenses will come down, because you're not trying to convince them. You're not getting into a debate, over their timeline, meeting or not meeting or whatever their objection is. Just say, I hear you. And then identifying the real issue could look like asking more questions and or what we call reframing. What we call reframing. So it could be that they've said, I don't want to meet because I don't think it's the right time to buy right now. Interest rates are too high. So I might say something like, well, what I'm hearing you say is that you don't feel like it's the right time to buy right now because it's going to cost you too much in a monthly payment. And they can say yes or no to that, right? So if they say yes, that's what their real concern is about, that interest rate is going to end up costing them, making it too much money to spend per month on a house payment. Then maybe I can offer a solution. I can say, well, what if I could get you to a lender who could get your monthly payment down to where you felt comfortable with that payment? Would you consider buying at that point? Well, yeah. Because see, they don't know what's possible, right? So then I might say, well, hey, I've got this great lender, and they do an amazing job of XYZ, and right now we're seeing that different lenders are offering rate buy downs. So they might not even. I've talked to a number of people who don't understand rate buy downs, and that you could either pay for, or the seller could pay for, buying down the interest rate, either temporarily or permanently. And when you tell them that, they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm not saying you have to buy anything right now. Why don't we just have you talk to this lender and see what they can do for you, and you can learn more about rate buy downs, and then we can see if this is a possibility for you, and then go from there. So again, you make it safe that, hey, we're just taking this one little baby step. It's not going to commit you to anything. Here's a possible solution to your issue, and let's just explore it. So then, boom, they say yes. I get connected to a lender. We're either able to solve the problem or we aren't. right? Most of the time we solve the problem. Oh, so then they're surprised. Now they're kind of excited. They're like, wow, okay. So then, boom, I come back and say, so let's meet together. Can we meet at this time or this time? And now they're a yes because I went to work for them and I solved their issue. So just see when somebody says no and they give you an objection, what they're really saying is, I don't have an answer for this problem and I'm asking for your help. If you can solve this problem for me, I'm a yes. If you can't solve this problem for me, I'm a no. So just take it on as being a problem solver. Don't try to convince anybody or argue with anyone. Just come alongside somebody like your, customer service, right? You're just trying to help them. And, some people will listen to it. Other people will be stuck in their objection and their no for right now because they don't maybe have the trust relationship with you to be willing to even try, and then just let that be okay. And again, follow up with them in the future. Hey, just wanted to check back with you, and maybe you find out another way to solve their problem, and you call them back and say, hey, have you heard about XYZ? So again, you just kind of get in the mode of thinking of yourself as a problem solver for all things real estate. So whether that's on the front end of getting somebody started, or whether you're in the middle of a transaction and you need to solve a problem around repairs, or whatever it is, you're just trying to help people solve problems. Sometimes when you get into transactions, you'll be helping the other realtor solve problems for their client because maybe they're not a very experienced real estate agent, or maybe they're not all that creative of a problem solver. And so you'll have to
Hey,
kind of,
Tim, we lost you for a sec there. What did you say?
oh, I was just talking about how sometimes when you get into a real estate transaction and you find out that the agent that you're working with is either inexperienced or not a very creative problem solver. And so you end up having to help them problem solve for their clients or for just a deal in general. And so I've just found whether it's handling an objection of a buyer or being in a deal where it looks like the deal's going to fall apart because we can't find a solution, it's usually just for a lack of information or a lack of thinking about something long enough to find the right answer. So, okay, ahas or takeaways at this point, or questions? So how are you guys feeling about the new rules of engagement with buyers?
I like them.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I did corporate contracts for the city while working for one of the service providers. So a lot of explaining to do with those, and I don't mind over explaining over here.
Yeah, gotcha. Good. Yeah, well, definitely going to take some explaining and retraining of the general public because, especially on the buy side, they've tended to, they're just looking for the house, right? So they go shopping for the house, and then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, I need a realtor to show me the house. This way, they're going to need to go shopping for the realtor first because they're not going to get to go shopping for the house. So it's not going to be any more of this call me up for a showing and then I'm going to go do this courtesy showing and then try and get them as a buyer. I mean, I realize some realtors will do either non-exclusive buyer agreements or short-term buyer agreements where it's only for a day or a few days. Um, I get that, but as a professional, I'm just going to basically tell them, I can't go show you the house unless we have a buyer agreement, unless we have a service agreement. So it would make more sense if we just took the time for you to meet with me. And again, so here's what I recommend we do. Let's find a time to meet together. And I could go over the home buying process and give you the
Why
market
don't
data.
we just close them at the open house?
What's that?
Why don't we just close them at the open house?
Yeah,
They
there you
see our
go.
buyers right there.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And open houses are going to be, I feel like they're going to become more and more popular because that's where the consumer is going to get to see the house that they want to look at um, without having to sign a service agreement, right? They're actually going to
Yeah.
get to, so you might actually meet more potential clients that don't already have realtors at open houses.
Yeah.
Um,
And I have found that it's really simple to get people to start talking about their wants and needs when they're already at the open house looking at something they want.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I had a MAPS coach who was a very high performer, and what he would do is he would line up uh, one or two uh, homes in his city or neighborhood that were very similar to the one that he was holding open. So he would like do his open house, let's just say he did open house 1 to 3 on a Sunday. And then let's say you set up a showing for a house at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock for another house or two that are very similar to the one that you're holding open. And he would do that because then he already had it, 9 times out of 10, the people see the house and it's not actually the house that they want to write an offer on. And if he made a connection with those people, he would say, you know, if this house doesn't end up being the house, um, I could show you this house or that house after, and he'd end up booking, some of those people that came through on showings for these similar homes. And either that would be the house and they'd be writing an offer, or you could see how the person would think, wow, this person's already going the extra step for me and giving me great customer service. I'll work with them.
Hmm.
So anyway, because I mean, even if you don't get somebody to go, well, then you just cancel the showing, right? So
Yeah.
it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And I think the one question I'm really good about asking is what's holding you back from working with a real estate agent you like and trust? And then that kind of gets people on the note of like,
Yeah.
actually, I don't know what's holding me back. I'm just like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great question.
and
That's
then I just laugh about it with them, and
right.
I'll let them know. Well, I really don't know what's holding you back either, so let's get something done.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Humor is great. It's very
Yeah.
disarming, and yeah, no, that's a great approach. That's a great approach. So, um, yeah, very, very good. All right, so let's say we booked the appointment. We got him to say yes. We're preparing for the buyer consultation. We talked about confirming the appointment date and location. Now, here's a key one that some people will miss. ensure that all decision makers attend the consultation. You'll have sometimes that the husband or wife will be the primary decision maker, and they'll just, maybe it's legitimate that their partner is not all that interested or concerned and will just likely agree with whatever, the husband or wife wants to do. But you still need all parties there. Number one, at the very least, you need the decision makers need to sign on the dotted line, right? It's not just one signature. You need both signatures, or if there's more than two decision makers, right? Because sometimes maybe it's a young couple or a young single person or whatever, and they're just buying their first home, and you think that you're just dealing with them, and then you go show them houses and mom and dad come along, right? And mom and dad don't know you, weren't a part of the consultation, and now think that it's their job to find all the things wrong with the house in order to protect their son or daughter. And they're kind of interfering with your ability to be able to do your job. So if there's going to be anybody else, whether formally or informally, a part of the decision-making process, they need to be at the consultation. Does anybody have questions about that? I mean, it sounds obvious, but in the moment, they will try to pressure you into accepting that it's okay for not all the decision makers to be at the appointment. There'll be one that just says, well, they're not interested in being there. I'm the decision maker anyways, and they'll want to meet with you, but the other one won't be there. I guarantee you that spells trouble. So you're going to have to be convinced about that and be able to hold the boundary line and be able to nicely say, that you need all decision makers there at the meeting so that everybody can be on the same page. So, because otherwise, either, at the very least, you have to go over the same information 2 or 3 times because not everybody was at the same meeting. Secondly, you'll have other people come into the process at different points with different understandings and sabotage the process. So it just doesn't work. So make sure all your decision makers are at the consultation. All right, and then something that's new to this time around of doing this class is the buyer guide that you can create through command. The templates are there, and you can put everything together in your buyer guide. So I haven't played with that yet. This is kind of new to me as well. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but just know that you can create your own buyer guide in command to be able to give your clients. So, okay, top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. Okay, so one of the things that you'll probably want to have is a sheet that has let's see if we have it in here. I thought I saw it. Okay. I mean, this is sort of it, your home wish list. It's more that. So you want to have a sheet that you can pull out when you're trying to qualify a buyer, whether you're on the phone or in person at the buyer consultation. You want to be able to move through and, obviously up front, you're going to get all of their basic information of how to contact them and everything. But then you're going to move through all the questions about the home, right? About the kitchen and the backyard and how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms. doesn't need to be move-in ready? Or are you okay with doing some updating or remodeling? You know, what are your top 5 needs that are non-negotiable? You know, talking about location. Because they might say they want to be in a certain location. And then, as you get into the process, they figure out they can't really afford that location. Or it's such a sought after neighborhood that there aren't any homes coming up in that location. So, what other locations would you consider? So, that's where you're asking them questions about where are their kids going to school? Where do they work? How long of a commute are they willing to do? Those are all personal questions that are going to help you better understand your client and figure out, because again, if you approach it as a problem solver and not just as, oh, I'm going to hear these, they say they want to be in this neighborhood or this city, and I'm just going to accept that as at face value. Well, why do they want to be in that city or neighborhood? What's important to them about that? Is it the commute? Is it the school system? Is it being close to family? What's important about being in that location? So you need to go deeper and ask those follow-up questions and find out what it is that's driving those various answers. When they say, hey, I want a big yard, well, what is big, right? Is that, a quarter acre lot, or what is a big yard? I mean, big is different to different people. Um, if they want a fenced yard, okay, what's important about having a fenced yard? Is it the kids? Is it pets? Is it privacy? What is important about that? So lots of different questions, drill down, find out all that you can about the home that they're looking for. Number two, you need to ask some financial questions. You need to be able to figure out exactly what their financial situation is. Do they have a house they need to sell? Are they totally cash? Are they pre-approved? Who's the lender? How much are they pre-approved for? What kind of loan is it? How much cash do they have to work with for a down payment and closing costs? And potentially paying your realtor fee. Right? See, that's the whole other question you're going to have to deal with in the buyer consultation, is helping them understand they're going to need to sign on the dotted line and be prepared to pay your compensation. So you need to have already decided and know what your value is and know how much you're working for. So, is that 2.5%? Is that 3%? What is that and why? And being able to explain that to your potential client. Does anybody have questions about that part? Because that's a very new thing that we're having to do. Has anybody done that yet?
What did you ask, Tim?
Just curious if anybody's done a buyer consultation, here recently, where they've had to explain to the buyers that they could potentially be responsible for paying the realtor compensation.
Yeah.
And so how did you go about doing that, Ray?
I just explained to them the responsibilities to them as buyers. I was upfront about it. I
Right?
just let them know, hey, I want to give you a heads up. This paperwork that I'm going to go over with you. It's completely transparent, lets you know all your rights as a buyer.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's like you're your payment and your arrangement with me, and then my payment and my arrangement with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that in reality, there's a 90 some percent chance that the seller is going to be willing to pay that, but you just need to know that potentially you could end up needing to pay that yourself. And here's what it is, right? And so just
Yep.
it's negotiable. I'm going to negotiate on your behalf. We're going to ask the seller for it, but we won't actually know until we get there, which is kind of crazy, but it's the way it is. And so more and more what you're seeing in that compensation conversation is that sellers and listing agents aren't revealing how much is being offered. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're seeing, but they're just saying compensation is negotiable. And the reason that they're not putting out a number, or I mean, obviously we can't advertise it through the multiple listing service, but they're not even like if I were to ask over the phone, most of them now aren't telling me. Like I'll ask them,
Yeah.
and they'll just say it's negotiable.
Well, when they tell me it's negotiable, I just tell them, well, let's negotiate now. Should I charge you 5% or 2.5%?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
I just
good.
I just get people laughing. I feel like that works the best for me
Yeah,
at the moment, just being a little comical about it because
that's
I'm
good.
new. I'm new and I'm letting people know like, hey, I'm ready to like get things moving. That's
That's
if they
awesome,
are,
man.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Well, what they're doing
Yeah.
when they say it's negotiable is they've probably already talked to their client about what to expect, which
Yeah.
is usually what we've seen for buyers agents is 2.5% on most homes. But they're just kind of holding out, going, well, we don't know what the buyer's agent's going to ask for or what the buyer's going to ask for. And so why would we volunteer 2.5% if if the buyer and buyer's agent are only going to ask for 2%? We might save ourselves some money by not pre-advertising what we're going to offer. So they just kind of hold it close to the chest, waiting to see what the buyer agent is going to put into the offer. Um, but usually what I've seen is buyer agents will put in the 2.5% or whatever, and pretty close to 100% of the time, the seller recognizes that they're going to need to pay that in order to get the deal closed. So they generally end up saying yes to that as long as the other parts of the offer are reasonable. So
Yeah.
it's not as big a deal as people are making it out to be, but it is a little different to deal with. So you guys that are new just won't know any different. This will be normal for you guys. So anyway, so you want to develop your kind of your questionnaire, your buyer's questionnaire, and then eventually a seller's questionnaire to it's kind of like you're the doctor, and like the nurse goes in to get all the vital signs for the patient. You're asking all the questions to get all that preliminary information so that you can properly diagnose their situation. All right. All right. So okay, contents of your buyer's guide. So here's all kinds of things that you could put into a buyer's guide. Um, that you could have ready for your consultation and give them this packet of information. How to use the KW app, school information, moving tips, testimonials, a sample contract, mistakes to avoid. Yeah, all kinds of good stuff in there that people are going to want to be able to reference. All right, so this just kind of shows you can go into command and go to templates and be able to design your own and create a table of contents, putting all that good stuff in there. Neighborhood insights. Home buying process. Kind of walk them through it so they know what to expect. Stuff about home loans. Your value proposition. Questions, ahas. Okay, well, we've got about 20 minutes left, so I'm gonna keep moving. All right, so this is the hardest part of this class to teach, the actual buyer consultation, because I don't have some pre-prepared script to just, email you guys. And we're not going to sit here for, 45 minutes to an hour and watch me pretend to hold a buyer consultation. So let me just give it to you in outline form. This is the way I learned to do it. Um, I'm sure there are other potential ways to do it. But I basically think of it as your appointment is going to have three parts. Okay. So like if you were giving a speech, you're going to have three Roman numerals. Okay. The first part of your buyer, okay, preparing for the buyer consultation. Okay, I'm going to come back to this statement. Okay. So before I get into the outline, let's just say this. I would personally recommend you having a consultation at the market center. Like, I don't know where, at your local market center. I don't know if you're part of Salem or Eugene or Portland or where you're from, but having your buyer consultation at the market center will give it a sense of professionalism that meeting at a local coffee shop will not. Okay. Um, so I just feel like we need to approach this like professionals, especially with the new rules and for buyers and needing to sign this buyer consultation. It just like your CPA doesn't meet you in a coffee shop. Your lawyer doesn't meet you in a coffee shop. Your financial advisor doesn't meet you in a coffee shop. Why are we, meeting with having these professional conversations about people's finances in informal places? So that's just my 2 cents worth. Um, so we can kind of, so you already have people who don't necessarily see the value in realtors, particularly with buyers, and they will try to act like they are the ones that are in charge and kind of potentially jerk you around. Um, and so by getting them to meet on your turf and come to you, you're already setting yourself up as the one that's in charge. You're setting yourself up as the leader who knows the process. They're there to follow your process. Yes, you're going to provide customer service, but they're not just going to call you all hours of the day and night and be able to ask you to do this and show this house and blah, blah, blah. no, you're the professional, you're in charge, you have the process, they need to follow you. Does that make sense? Everybody with me on that? Because otherwise, us as realtors, we tend to be people persons and we want to serve people, but then you can end up running yourself ragged by following buyers all over the place, thinking that you're serving them when they're actually chasing the perfect house mirage, because there is no perfect house. And you're actually doing them a disservice by not being the leader and being in charge of the process and, you know, and putting some boundaries on what's going to happen and not happen. So it starts with the buyer consultation and setting the right tone. And to me, that means them coming to my office on my turf. I'm leading the meeting, and that just sets the tone for everything. So then, secondly, they're going to come in the door. I'm going to greet them, and then I'm going to actually show them where to sit. That might seem like a small thing or a silly thing, but again, shows them that I'm in charge. So I don't just, I'm not saying give them a command, sit here. No, but I'm just, you kind of put your hand out, here, have a seat, and just show them where you want them to sit in the conference room, where you're going to sit as opposed to where the screen is at, where you're going to show homes and all of that. You're making the move. You're not just letting it be wide open to whatever they want to choose. You're showing that you're leading the meeting. Okay, so then once we sit down, you're gonna welcome them. Maybe you make sure that there's bottled water there, or coffee or whatever you're gonna offer them. Make sure they're comfortable. Make sure they know where the bathrooms are, and then kind of engage just in some small talk. How are you doing today? Whatever other topic of conversation that that would tell them that you remember something about them, or maybe they shared with you something about their family, and so you can ask about, oh, last time we talked, your son was having a birthday, how did that go, or whatever it is. So you have a little bit of small talk, build some rapport, and then just be able to say, so I have 3 goals for our meeting this afternoon or whenever it is. And so that's where you're going to give them the outline, because what happens to us as listeners, at some point, if we don't know how long this person is going to talk or how long this presentation is going to go, we kind of get into endurance mode where we're just kind of tune out and go, man, how long is this going to last? All right, we need a commercial break, like what we get in watching TV. So by giving them the expectations up front that there are 3 goals, or what's actually going to be like 3 sections to your meeting, then their mind, as you're moving through those 3 sections, are going to be able to engage where they're at in the meeting and know how close they are to getting to the end. Okay. So just say up front, I've got 3 goals for our meeting this afternoon. Number 1, I want to get to know you guys and your goals as well as possible so I can accurately determine how to help you achieve those goals. So we're going to go through what kind of home you're looking for, and some financial questions, and some lifestyle questions, so that I can best understand how to help you. Number 2, I'm going to share with you about how I work to help get my clients the best deal in the shortest amount of time, what you can expect from me service wise, and then also share market data about what's going on in the areas that you've indicated that you're interested in, so you can know what to expect when we get out into the field and look at homes. Okay, so that second section is really two-part. It's partially about me and my value proposition. It's also partially about real estate and the market data, right? So just part two is all about real estate. So part one is about getting to know the client. Part two is all the real estate stuff you need to go over for them to understand the home buying process, what's going on in the real estate market, and how what they can expect from you. Okay, all of that's tied up in part two. And then that part three, the third goal, then is once we finish those first two things, if you feel good about moving forward and working with me, then I've got some paperwork for us to go through, and then we'll do a property search and look at homes. Okay, so part number three is the paperwork and the property search. So that's basically the flow. So if you can just remember those things, and then part one is easy because you don't have to memorize anything. You develop your questionnaire. You have your questionnaire in front of you. You ask the question and you take notes, right? And if you want to ask follow-up questions, fine, but that's where you're going to take all your notes, and then people are going to see you taking notes and showing that you're listening and you're interested in them, and that you're not just doing all the talking. Okay? Then secondly, yeah, second part, you're going to need to memorize. You're going to need to know your market information. You're going to need to be able to explain the home buying process in a nutshell without taking too long. And you're going to need to be able to talk about yourself and your expectations of what it means to work with you. Then, at the end of that, that's when you're going to say, okay, so is there any reason why we can't do some paperwork and get started on your new home search? And see if they have any objections at that point, which is just going to basically mean things that you didn't answer, right? They might have a question about something. So you answer the objection or whatever, if they have one. And then that third part, walking through the paperwork, is literally just explaining the paperwork that's in front of you. So you just say, here's the first page of the service agreement. Here's what it means. Sign here. Here's page 2. Here's what's covered in this page. Sign here. I charge 2.5% or whatever your number is. And then you're going to have to explain the rules of the road now that we don't know those buyer agent commission numbers up front. It's all negotiable as a part of the deal. Most of the time the seller pays. However, there could potentially be a house that you might want to buy that the seller is not willing to pay my compensation. In that instance, you would be responsible for that. You just need to know that up front. So they sign on the dotted line, and then you do the property search. Then you start looking at homes. Don't do the property search before they sign on the dotted line. Okay? The home search is what they want. Make them wait to the end after they've actually done what they needed to do, which was sign the agreement. Okay? So you get through all of that, then you can do a property search with them. Okay, so we kind of talked about it, buyer needs analysis, getting it signed, wrapping up the buyer consultation. Make sure you offer your KW app and send them the invite so that they can search for your name and choose you. And that way you get, it tells you what they're looking at and when they're looking at stuff, so you can know how to interact with them as they're looking for homes. Basically, and then this is not necessarily in this class, but I'm going to give you this for free. Okay, so you got them to sign on the dotted line. Now here's the rest of the catch of how to help them get a home and get into a transaction, okay? So you've booked an appointment, you've held the appointment. Now we got to go out and look at homes. Too many realtors take the hands-off approach of just kind of letting the customer run the show. You tell me what homes you want to look at. I line them up. We go look at them. Do you want to, do you like any of these? Oh, no. Okay. Well, then we just keep looking. Okay. Don't approach it like that. There's no need to approach it like that. When I was working, I don't do as many buyers now as I used to, but when I was a buyer's agent on the team that I worked at, we had a process set up where I would say about 70% of the time, I would be writing an offer for a client on the very first home tour. We would go out and identify 5 or 6 homes that we were going to look at, and 7 out of 10 times we would be writing an offer and getting them under contract on their very first trip out. So I'm going to give you the very quick version because we only have 8 minutes, but I'm going to try and share with you how that's possible. And I'm not some great salesman, okay? I didn't twist anybody's arms or wave any magic wands, okay? So here's how you do that. You do the property search at the consultation. You widen the search just a little bit wider than what they're actually asking for. All right, so just think about what parameters they're asking for and just go ahead and say, well, okay, I hear you saying that you only want this, but I'm going to widen it just a little bit wider because I want to make sure that you see everything that's out there that could possibly fit your family. Okay, so you show them that you're listening, you're working for them, but what you're really doing is you're widening it because you want to take away the excuse that they haven't seen everything. You want to show them that you are showing them everything. There are no hidden homes. There's no homes that are hiding somewhere that you haven't shown them. Okay, you're going to show them everything. So you're going to be able to say, hey, the beauty of the internet is that we can look at all these homes. We can look at 20, 30, however many homes. We can look at all these homes and you will have seen everything that's available in your price point and in your location and with the amenities that you're looking for. Okay. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what we're going to do next is we're going to look through these homes. You tell me which ones you're actually semi-interested in, and we're going to create a short list. We're going to create a maybe list. Okay. So out of all these homes that they look at, they're like, no, no, no. Yeah, that's a maybe. Yeah, I kind of like that one. And they start narrowing it down. If their maybe list is more than 6 homes, then we haven't done enough work in the consultation. Okay. You don't want to go out there and show them 10 homes. That's just ridiculous. Okay. You can look at the pictures. You can ask enough questions to be able to knock a few more of those homes off the list and be able to determine that those are not, we don't want to waste our time looking at this house. It's really not enough square footage for you, is it? Or whatever it is. But get it down to no more than 5 or 6. Okay. In today's market, there's not that much inventory. Most of the time, you're not going to even have 5 or 6. You're going to have more like 2 or 3, maybe 4. but you get it down to a manageable number of homes that they actually want to go see. Now, what you've done is they've already run through this whole funnel of homes, and now they're actually more excited about seeing these ones. We're not just seeing random homes that popped up on Zillow. These are ones that, we've just talked through. Now, boom, they see these as potential potential homes that they might want to buy. Okay. Next, you book the home tour in the next 1 or 2 days. You're either going to do it that same day or the next day, or at the very most 2 days. So think about that when you book your appointment. Make sure your appointment, maybe you want your appointment to be on a Thursday or Friday so you can do a home tour on a Saturday. Or you have the conversation with your clients about going out during the week and taking some time off of work to beat the competition to go look at homes. But whatever it is, make sure you're going out within the next couple of days. One, it's fresh in their mind. Two, the homes are still on the market, and they're, they haven't missed out on one going pending. So the second thing you do in the consultation when you're talking to them about how you're going to how you help people get homes is this. Here's the method that we used. We called it the ophthalmologist method. All right. Most people understand about going to see the eye doctor. And when you go see the eye doctor says 1 or 2, right? 1 or 2, when they're changing the lenses for you to try to see which one works best for your eyes. So you just tell them, hey, would it surprise you to know that most of my clients actually put an offer in on a house on their very first time out? And they'll go, yeah, whoa, that's, it'll be surprising to them. And you just let them know it's not because you twist anybody's arms, not any sales tactics. It's because we have a very simple process that actually puts you as the client in the driver's seat. I just come alongside and you actually walk through your own self-discovery in discovering which home is best for you and your family. Let me explain how this works, right? And then you go into this explanation. Basically goes like this. We're going to go into the first home. We're going to take a look at it, and then we're going to regroup afterwards. I'm going to ask you, what things do you like about this home? After that, we're going to go into home number 2. I'm going to ask you the same thing. Then I'm going to ask you, if you could only choose between house number 1 and house number 2, which house would you choose? And then explain. You just say, the reason I ask you that is because we're going to look at several homes. And if we wait till the very end of the tour, your mind is going to start getting confused about which features were on which homes. And what we know is that a confused mind can't make a decision. So by just having your mind actually work through all of the facts about just home number 1 and home number 2, it's the price point and the condition and the location and all of these items, and you say, oh yeah, I think house number 1 would be better than house number 2, then we can forget about house number 2 and we don't have to think about it anymore. And we'll go on to house number 3. So then is it 1 or 3? Is it 1 or 4? Or maybe at that point they say, no, 3 is better than 1. Okay, we're just going to remember 3. But at any point, you're only having to remember one house that is your favorite. So when we get to the end of the tour, you're going to choose between those last 2 homes. It's going to become very obvious to you which home out of all the homes that you've seen, including all of the homes that I showed you at our consultation, all 30 homes that you've seen been able to see, which one is the best available option for your family that meets most of your needs and is in your price range. And then you're going to hear me ask, is there any reason why we can't do some paperwork? Okay. If you'll just do those things, and then when you get out to the field, follow through on what you said you were going to do in the buyer consultation, they will just follow along. They're like, oh, this is easy. this person actually has a program. They actually have a plan. We're just going to follow the plan. Takes the pressure off of you, really takes the pressure off of them. They have a process to work through. Their mind starts going to work on what you've said in the consultation. And when you get to the end and you say, is there any reason why we can't do some paperwork? 9 times out of 10, they say yes. And then you just, then you fill out the offer and go from there. But that's literally the home tour process in a nutshell, made very simple and easy. It will save you tons of time and heartache in conversations, and you'll get a lot more paychecks a lot faster if you'll follow that method. So I hope that helps. And I think we're pretty much out of time, and we're at the end of our slideshow. So any last questions before we go?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, so if any of you want to reach out to me, if you have any follow-up questions, my email is very simple, timothy.english@kw.com. timothy.english@kw.com. Yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any other questions about dealing with buyers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great one,
Thank you,
guys.
Ken.
You bet.